monthly community call, and I have asked Natalie Ross, who's my dear friend, collaborator, fellow marketing messaging nerd, to join me here on this community call, and we're going to answer some questions. So before we get into that, Nat, do you want to give us just a real quick short intro into who you are, why you do this, and I want to say like one weird fact about you.
Well, I'll start with the one weird fact. I was narcoleptic as a child. I would just pass out. So in first grade, I actually had my adenoids removed, and that stopped that. But looking back now, I'm like, oh, I think I was experiencing so much life threat trauma response that my body was just like shut down, pass out to protect myself. And it's been a journey. So yeah, one weird fact. Who am I? I'm someone on the other side of trauma recovery who has been really held back in a very intense freeze shutdown mode in my body for a lot of my life, but having a very active creative mind and feeling very inspired to connect, but scared to connect, or just not having the capacity to connect, and even not having the capacity to kind of survive in the everyday ways that were required. And so the last, I don't know, decade and a half have been a real deep dive journey through intuitive development, self-care, spirituality, and then finding nervous system stuff and trauma healing and doing all kinds of therapy, and now becoming trained as a trauma healing practitioner myself in somatic experiencing. And life on the other side is amazing. I'm 39. I feel like I'm just getting started, and it's pretty awesome to feel like, whoa, I have so much more energy. I have so much more aliveness. I have so much more courage and capacity on the other side of this. And that's something that I just want to help other people do. And I do that in the vein of helping people really understand what is it that they're doing when they work with people. How do they communicate that value? How do they communicate their unique style, their special sauce, and invite people to work with them in a way that feels nourishing, regenerative, is in their capacity, and is honoring the needs of everyone involved. So on the outside, that, we would call that like branding, messaging, marketing, but on the inside is all about relationships, and it's all about connecting with that mind, body, and spirit, and with the relationships of the people that you're inviting to do work with you, and what impact that's going to have in the world. So I help people really convey the value of their offer. And by people, I mean like spiritual entrepreneurs. I help them convey the value of their offers and feel confident putting themselves out there. So yeah, I've done all kinds of stuff in my past, but I'm not going to get into that because I could take up the whole hour. So questions, comments, reflections are always welcome. Oh, and you can sign up for my newsletter at natalie.net. It's kind of, I've had this website forever. My newsletter is definitely the place I like to be most. I'm not so much on Instagram these days anymore. So yeah.
Thank you. So at this point, I am going to invite the community who's gathered here to ask your questions. And then Nat and I will read through the questions, take a couple minutes, slow it down, so we can really take these questions in, and then we'll get into answering and coaching and witnessing and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to start reading some of these questions out loud, and just, I'm an external processor, so I feel like I need to say them out loud sometimes. Oh, fantastic. We've got some great questions coming in. Suggestions on marketing and business growth while long periods of grieving. Wanting to create a coaching offer, new to coaching, want ideas on how to share who I am despite not having a lot of experience, still formulating my offer. Ideas of how to frame language that does not tap into scarcity or dysregulation while being honest about myself. Having a lot of fear and anxiety around marketing myself and my art. How can I discern between what is just my fear of being seen versus what is a true sensing of misalignment in my marketing methods? Sustainability. Nat, is there anything that you feel called to jump into?
I'm really called to Carrie's question.
Okay.
How about you?
Let
I
me
mean,
go.
I like all these questions, honestly.
Yeah, let's do it. That
Okay.
one struck a chord with me too.
Let me see, where is Carrie? Okay, hi Carrie. Something that pops up for me immediately about that is, okay, so the question is, I have a lot of fear and anxiety around marketing myself and my art. How can I discern between what is just my fear of being seen versus what is a true sensing of misalignment in my marketing methods? I think why this popped up to me is because what I immediately had a vision in my head of so something that could be, your fear of being seen versus misalignment. It might not even be that what you think you have to do or what you feel compelled to do is misalignment. It might just be something that's further down the line of when you feel a little more safe being seen. So I feel like it could be more of a progression of trying to jump too far too fast. And can you pull it back closer to home with little steps that aren't as triggering, that are maybe uncomfortable, but you can do them? Because that, I feel like the misalignment isn't in the action itself, but in the amount of activation it brings up for you. So that's why I want to start. That just immediately popped in my head. And Carrie, if you want to comment or reflect, and I welcome pushback and objection and whatever, like I'm not here to be right.
Sure. Is it okay if I unmute?
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah. So I feel like I really know I am a marketer professionally in my day job. So I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And when it comes to sitting down and like writing copy for myself, or even just choosing like a piece of my artwork that I'm going to show, I'm just instantly paralyzed every time. And it's gotten to the point where sometimes I can't tell, and is it really my intuition saying like you're going in the wrong direction versus just a general anxiety? Are there any kind of clues that I can look for? Are there practices that I could do to kind of start working through these? And I love your idea of the baby steps. I definitely, I think I can tell when I'm trying to jump on something or jump too far ahead. But I also feel like I have the knowledge that should be supporting my ability to do this, and I don't know what's continuing to hold me back.
Oh, so much. Yeah. One thing I just want to say, as a marketing professional, I feel like you might know too much. And this is kind of where some unlearning is going to happen for you too. But Kat looks like she wanted to say something.
Oh my God, so many things. Carrie, are you open to a little bit of coaching around this?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when you are, we're going to take it into the somatics a little bit here. So when you are sitting in that space of, I know what I should do, and I'm frozen, I don't know what, like, is this a fear of being seen? Am I really supposed to be doing this? Is this my intuition? Is this fear? La, 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 right? Can you bring that up in your body? Like, what does it feel like in your body when you're in that space? And I'm going to ask you to just name location and physical sensations of what comes up.
It's very much the fluttering in my chest. My heart starts pounding. My hands will get cold. So there will be like a physical frozen coldness feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll feel like my mind is going blank, as if like my ability to even construct language has departed.
Okay.
But it's very much starts in my chest and kind of goes into butterflies in the stomach.
Yeah. I love how tangible you made that for us. You can just leave your mic on because I'm going to be chatting with you for a little while.
Okay.
Are you able to like bring that feeling up in this moment? Does that feel okay? Does that feel safe?
Yes.
Okay. And if you were to tap into that sensation, tap into that feeling, how old is that feeling?
Do you mean how long have I had that feeling, or what age in my life does that bring to mind?
Either way.
Because I had the sudden feeling of like, oh, I'm 5 or 6 years old.
Let's go with that then.
Okay.
5 or 6. How did that tactic of freezing, how did that keep you safe when you were 5 or 6?
I think it kept me from being noticed by someone. It feels like a protection from judgment, not speaking up, not being noticed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So at this incredibly tender age of 5 and 6, you had already picked up, as far as your survival tactics go, you had already picked up, if I am seen, if I am noticed, I'm going to be judged, and therefore I'm going to be unsafe. Yeah.
Yeah, that really resonates.
Okay. And so when we sit with that little 5-year-old who had to freeze, is there wisdom in that?
I don't know if there's wisdom. I don't know if there's any kind of thought process behind it. It feels very instinctual.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels like there are no more thoughts. There's just this sudden hiding and
Yeah.
wanting to be protected.
Yeah. And what would the consequence have been had you been bigger and had you been seen?
I don't really know. I don't really know. And I'm thinking that I'm trying to go back to memories of when I did speak up as a child.
Mm,
And there are very few of them.
yeah.
Because I think as soon as anyone noticed I was a little too loud, I would get quiet.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fear of the unknown.
Mm. So just as a reflection point, I'm kind of watching the faces in the room here, and there's multiple people like nodding along with you right now. I think that there's a lot of folks who are also tapping into their inner 3-year-old, their inner 5-year-old, their 7-year-old, their 9-year-old, right? And so what this story shares with me is that you were a very sensitive little creature, and you learned really early on that to survive you needed to be small.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of why marketing yourself versus marketing somebody else's product feels so different, right?
Right, right.
Because you're not asking to be like, if anything, when you market somebody else's product, like you kind of fall back into the shadows and you're like, let me just show you how wonderful this other product is.
Yeah, I'm hiding behind someone else.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
And so can you paint us like a little picture of what 5-year-old Carrie was like?
5-year-old Carrie was one thing I really remember from that age was discovering that I wasn't very good at being a girl.
Mm,
And I would get a lot of I would get a lot of pushback from peers about, spending too much time hanging out with the boys and doing boy things and just being a little too noisy in class. And I also shortly after that got sent off to the gifted classes, where in the 80s that just meant they put you in a separate room and kind of just let you do whatever you wanted.
mm,
So I think in this current era, I probably would have been diagnosed ADHD. But I was also, I wanted everyone to like me. I definitely wanted like all the teachers to like me. So I was very concerned about behaving and doing what I was supposed to do and following all the rules. And I was pretty quiet. I was always the, pleasure to have in class child.
Okay. So I'm hearing like a little bit of like there's almost like two sides to Carrie. Like there's kind of like this excitable, like I want to move my body and do things that are like really sort of like tangible and kinesthetic. And then there's like another part of you who's like, I've got to be good and I've got to be quiet and I've got to make sure that people like me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have you just close your eyes for a moment and envision little Carrie. And what did you need to hear from an adult, from a well-regulated adult, I should be more clear, from a well-regulated adult at 5? What would have been like just sweet medicine to little Carrie?
I just needed someone to tell me that it's okay to not be perfect.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of us that could have needed those words.
Yeah, I needed a little more space to just mess up.
What else did you need to hear?
I wanted to hear that it was okay to not fit in.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear that I didn't need to be quiet.
I'm writing your words down because I think that those are really important words. I'm going to open up the space here and ask the community here to also, just as well-regulated adults or adults who are working towards regulation, what can you say to Carrie just to sort of give her little 5-year-old a chance to sink into who she is?
Carrie, I resonate a lot with what you're saying. And so thank you for your courage and putting yourself out there and sharing. One of the things that stood out to me is I feel like it's time to let yourself shine. So you were dimmed and it was almost like a flame being extinguished. And so there was like kind of a death, not to be so direct there. I mean, but that's what's coming up. And it's time to kind of revive and be alive and let that flame shine and let that light be bright so you can radiate out to your audience, your gift. So that is what was speaking very loud to me. And I just wanted to share to see if it resonates in any way to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I wasn't expecting to cry today. Yes. Yeah, I do feel that. I kind of feel that sense of a death, or in burying some part of me that just I was afraid to be.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any correlation. One other thing that was coming up that I want to sit with for me is I was diagnosed with ADHD, so I have a lot of connection with what you were sharing. And I'm almost feeling a lot as I'm learning and growing that there's a very, very strong correlation with the nervous system. So I don't know if it truly, for me, just speaking for myself, is ADHD. I feel like it was my nervous system at such a young age so dysregulated that's just the label that was put on. And that I think has caused me personally some more damage. So I'm breaking free from that label and really looking more into connecting with myself back then, kind of like what was just done. So I don't know if that resonates at all either, but I just felt there's a connection with what you were sharing. And I just feel like there's hope and healing versus, oh, you have ADHD and all these things. And it's like, wow, it's just my nervous system. And I have power over that. And I have the ability to regulate that. And I have the ability to grow. So there was a connection there too. But thank you. Thank you again. I'm honored to be able to hear what you shared, and thank you for the gift and helping me.
Thank you for sharing with me.
Love that. Thank you so much, Deborah. We had a couple more comments show up in the chat, so I'm just going to read them out loud. However you want to receive that for Carrie, your little one. Natalie says, your loudness and bigness and brightness is welcome here. Cecily says, your creativity belongs here and wants to reach out to others. Alenka says, thank you, Carrie, for your story. You're so welcome to be your wild, beautiful, and courageous self. Yes, let your light shine. Dari says, I would love to see your lights and shadows, your failures in quotation marks, and all your virtues are equally important for me to see. And so, oh, Sarah says, your bigness gives all of us courage and permission to be our biggest selves. And so, Carrie, when you're sitting and feeling that frozen feeling, I recommend that you take a screenshot of all these really beautiful comments. And then I'm also actually gonna copy and paste what you wrote, your words, where you don't need to be perfect, you don't need to fit in, you don't need to be quiet. And then I also added Deborah's words, let the flame shine. And so when you're sitting there and you're feeling that sense of frozen and that sensation in your chest that you were describing of like feeling like, oh, like, am I supposed to do this? I should already know how to do this. Why can't I do this? You know, these are the words that your 5-year-old needs to hear. And then you can discern, is that my intuition telling me no, or is that the fear of my 5-year-old saying it isn't safe to be big? It isn't safe to show up and take up space.
Yeah.
How's all that landing for you?
It feels like I've just like got something to hold on to the next time that feeling comes over. Like, this will give me a thing to remember and think of, you know, am I just being small? Is this something I really need to look at? And maybe I'm using some marketing I don't personally agree with, or do I need to, is this just an opportunity for me to be brave for myself and I think maybe for other people too?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the words that you said are things that I tell my clients all the time when it comes to marketing. You don't need to be perfect. In fact, you shouldn't fit in. You shouldn't be quiet, right? Natalie, is there anything else you want to add for Carrie's little session here?
Yeah, it's really beautiful. If you're willing, Carrie, I just want to check in with you and see what are you noticing in your body right now?
So I had a little bit of anxiety in my chest earlier, and it's shifted. There's still a feeling in my chest, but it's moving more towards an openness. So I'm kind of examining that right now and figuring out what that feeling is, because it doesn't feel bad.
Okay, that's good. And then I noticed you moving your hands. Would it be okay if we just kind of talk to your nervous system directly and play with that for a little bit?
Yes, sure.
And I'm going to invite you, if you're willing, to just slow down that hand movement and just notice what's happening in your body. You don't need to figure anything out, make sense of it. Just notice. You were doing a lot of just
I am feeling a growing pressure between my hands, like if you're holding a balloon that's inflating.
Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. And you can move your hands back toward, I just saw you moving your hands. This isn't any special hand movement. This is just a movement
No.
I saw you doing.
I'm just imagining, or at least it feels as if there's pressure on my hands trying to push them apart farther.
Would it be okay to notice that pressure? Just notice it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Take your time.
It feels like the energies, all of that sensation that was inside of my body is like coming out here, and now I'm trying to hold it in my hands.
Okay. And can you notice that you said you're trying to hold it? How do you know you're trying to hold it in your hands?
Because it feels like it's trying to push my hands apart more. It just wants to,
Would it be okay to
like,
let it
almost
push
like
your,
a slow explosion.
would it be okay to let it be a slow explosion and just, if it's too much, you can stop at any time, but just notice how it wants to move your hands.
It just wants to open up.
Yeah.
It does feel like it wants to go beyond my range of motion.
You can imagine that then, if that's okay, if it feels okay, you can imagine it. Yeah.
I kind of feel like I just want to sit here in this space for a minute.
Take your time. Take your time. Yeah, notice that.
My thinking brain is just trying to like figure out like what's about to happen.
Okay. And when you think, would it be okay to explore that for a moment?
Okay.
We can come back to this space,
Mhm.
but you're thinking.
Okay, one
brain.
thing that my thinking brain is going is my thinking brain is telling me you're taking up too much space right now.
Oh, and what sensations do you notice in your body when you notice that I'm taking up too much space right now? What sensations are showing up?
There's a tightness that's starting again in my chest, where it's that feeling of questioning, am I allowed to be seen? Am I allowed to take up this much space and be this loud and big?
Would it be okay to notice that if it's too much? Because I know right now you're being seen, and if it feels like it's all too much, that's totally okay. But would it be so? Where would you like to notice that sensation, or is it all too much?
That's almost what I feel like. I'm waiting for validation that it's okay to be too much.
It's okay to be too much.
It's okay to be too much.
You're not too much for this space, or for me, or for Kat, or for the folks witnessing you here. And if they need to take care of themselves, they're welcome to. Yeah. What sensations are you noticing?
I notice that things are starting to move downward.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of starting to settle in, kind of in a state of saying, okay, we can stay here for a minute. We can try this out.
Would it be okay to notice that then and just, yeah.
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 But I'm also feeling a resistance of something is just like, okay, we can sit here for a minute, but this is not all coming back in.
And that's okay, and can you notice both at the same time? Is that okay to notice they're both here in the same space?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to get rid of either one. We can just notice them. Yeah.
The fluttering feeling has gone away.
What?
I still have a really intense awareness of my chest, but it's not fluttering and frantic right now.
Okay. Is it still vibrating, moving?
It's kind of, it's feeling like it wants to break out.
Would it
and
be
take
okay
up
then?
the space again.
Would it be okay then to play with your hands and slowly just follow, let them guide you, but just slow that motion down and take your time?
I'm envisioning like an energy surrounding.
Ah, did that just pop up to you?
Yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of the visual that came into my mind.
You want to tell me about it? What are you seeing?
Kind of like a almost like imagine a pulsing force field. It's kind of just the nebulous energy glowing idea. Like if we were in a movie where you could visualize it, it would just be like that, you know, the swirly iridescentness.
And is it okay feeling?
It is. I'm letting it. I'm saying, okay, if this energy needs to go somewhere, I need it to be useful.
Ah, when you need it to be useful, what do you
if
notice? Yeah.
I'm needing it to serve me.
Where do you feel that inside of you? What do you notice inside of you when you say that? And there's no right or wrong or bad.
That feels like it's coming from that feeling that settled before. Now that's coming up again and saying, okay, if all this energy is going to go out into the world, it has to serve me.
How does that feel for you? What kind of emotions come up around that, if you're willing?
Sort of a very quiet confidence,
Ah,
not in a commanding way, but in just in expectation that this is going to be met,
ah,
if that makes sense.
yeah. And would it be okay to just notice that kind of feeling in there, wherever you're noticing that sensation in your body?
Yeah,
Notice that.
it feels supportive and foundational.
You know, take your time, notice that.
I'm also very nervous about it though, because it feels a little dangerous at the same time.
That's okay. Makes total sense. Makes total sense. And would it be okay then to explore that part that's feeling a little dangerous? Is it too much, or can we just, where's the edge of what feels dangerous?
That there's an uncertainty feeling.
And what's that sensation with that?
It's bringing me back to this, okay, so you're ready to be big, you're practicing being big now, are you really ready for it? It's there's a little bit of fear kind of at the edges.
Really? And when you say, are you really ready for it? What sensations are you noticing?
Oh, that the fluttering came back into my chest.
Okay, can we notice that for a second?
Yeah.
Is it, yeah.
It's just kind of a twitchy feeling.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. If it's okay to just notice it.
Mhm. I'm kind of going back and forth visually between imagining, like, does it want to settle back down, or does it need to be pushed out into everything else?
What feel good to you right now? Do you want to do another slow push?
Just kind of both.
Okay, yeah, and slow, if you're willing, slow those hand motions down real slow. Yeah. Just yeah.
I had a thought come into my brain that I
Okay.
can't, these feelings cannot just be like shoved out. There was a thought of, I have to push it down and process it before I send it out, before I let it go.
And that's interesting. And is it, I
It
have to
doesn't
push
want to
it
be
down?
ignored.
They want to be ignored.
It doesn't want to be ignored.
Oh, interesting. So can you tell me a little bit more what it means to push it down and process it?
I'm imagining, like I've done meditations where you imagine pushing like your energy down from your head to your root. So I'm kind of envisioning that idea of pushing it down into the root and then
Mhm.
just letting it disperse. And from there, it just kind of like moves out of my body and
Yeah.
into the air.
Yeah. And if it's feeling like it's too much, that's okay. And that's welcome. I'm wondering if it would be okay to, instead of us pushing it down, to keep working with how it would like to move. And it might end up wanting to go down, but would it be okay to just keep working with how that energy wants to move?
I kind of feel like I'm trying to, like, I'm not really feeling it as much anymore. I've lost some kind of disconnection with it.
That's okay. That's okay. And maybe I'm going to invite you back into your room and to notice your surroundings. Yeah. Maybe notice the sounds around you. And as you look around your room, maybe there's something that feels pleasurable, brings you support or joy.
I've got photos of my wife.
Yeah. And when you see those, how do you feel? What do you notice?
I feel kind of grounded back in reality again.
And how do you know you're grounded? What sensations are showing up that show you that you're grounded in reality again? What's happening?
I'm feeling the chair. I'm noticing the chair and I'm noticing physical sensations.
Yeah. Yeah. And would it be okay to just notice that the photos of your wife, you said?
Mhm.
Yeah, and just notice those photos of your wife and the feelings of your chair and pleasure that brings.
It's like a external support.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm honing in on.
Yeah, you've moved through a lot today. This was a lot.
I was not expecting this today.
Yeah, yeah. You went on a really big journey and you've really processed a lot. So I'm going to invite you today to maybe just take a break, do something you really enjoy, or even just move your body and clean or something, like something to help you just kind of move some energy without doing too much, if that feels good to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you moved through a lot and really, really good job. There's a lot there and yeah. What are you noticing now in your body? Does it feel okay to kind of pause here? I know there's probably still so much to process, so much coming up, but
Yeah, I kind of feel like I just came back from like a jog or a physical workout.
yeah, you did a really deep workout just now. So your body worked really hard right now and you did amazing. Are those laughs coming through?
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's any motions your body wants to make, if you want to shake it or jump around or even, yeah. And if you feel like, yeah, you need to, anything you want to do. And even on the rest of this call, if you want to, if it feels good to you, if you need to get up and move, turn off your camera and go move or something, do whatever you got to do. You did a lot, and that was like a full session.
That was wild. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that was like a full session.
Thank you for that so much.
Yeah. And as you go about the rest of your day, I'm going to invite you to just come back to noticing the space around you. I mean, the photos of your wife, things that bring you joy and help you stay, it's okay to go into the discomfort, but you've been through expansion, contraction, let go of a lot. Your nervous system released a lot of energy today, a lot. And so whatever you're going to be feeling, it's valid. And yeah. Any questions or anything else that you would like for support before? Is this a good place to kind of
Yeah.
close up?
This is a good place.
Okay.
I feel like I have a lot to process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for lending us your nervous system and sharing your story with us. And yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you both. I always like to sort of make sure that we, especially when we've had such big movements, like if we can name just a couple of takeaways. And so, Carrie, if there's anything that you're like, okay, so this is the thing I'm going to take away, what would that be from your original question? Which
one thing I'm gonna take away is that I don't need to be dismissive of these fears and anxieties that are coming up.
Mhm.
It is something that I need to work through, and it's not something that I want to get rid of. I think it's something I want to work with.
Yeah.
Is what it's kind of feeling like.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing and for being vulnerable and letting us witness you.
Thank you.
As a group, let's just take 3 breaths just to seal up Carrie's session. And then we'll hop into one more question, I think. So starting with an exhale, breathing in, breath out, breathing in, breath out, and last breath in together as a group. Last breath out together as a group. Okay, lovelies. Yeah, and if you need to like wiggle out your shoulders or anything like that, permission to do that.
Kat, what do you think about taking any questions, not like about what people just witnessed, like if they're like, what were you doing there? I mean, I don't know. I just think people just got to watch this whole coaching process, and if people are like, wait, what happened? What were you noticing at this point? I don't know. I'm just opening it up. This is a question coming in. I don't even know if my question makes sense, but like, do people have questions about the coaching itself? And if so, I mean,
Yeah.
And you don't have to, but it just felt like opening up the space. I know we're not teaching people how to coach, but understanding like what were we doing as coaches, or what was this process that was happening? Because it was so much more than just words. Both Kat and I were working with so much more than just words here. It was like a journey back in time to 5-year-old, coming back to the present, so much stuff. Okay, well, if questions come up, I'm open to them. Should we move to another question then?
Yeah, Sarah's question actually kind of struck me, and I'll read that out loud. Where did it go? I'm going to scroll to it. I'm currently clear that I want to create a coaching offering. I'm new to coaching and want ideas on how to share who I am, despite not having a lot of experience and still formulating my offer. Ideas on how to frame language that does not tap into scarcity or dysregulation while being honest about myself. I thought this question kind of struck me because it's less about like the emotional blocks that come up around marketing, and it's more about like the how-tos. And I think it's really important to show people that there's like the emotional stuff that we have to work through, but then also there's like tangible things that we have to do with marketing, and how can we do that? So Sarah, you want to pop your mic on and just keep that on while we're chatting?
Sounds good.
Hi.
Hi.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is Sarah, question to you, Sarah. Have you had any clients at all?
Yes, I
Okay.
had someone connect with me, and it was a confirmation that there's something here for me in this space. And even witnessing the work that you just did with Carrie, it just felt very resonant with how, sort of like a more junior version of what you all just showed us. But I felt a lot of resonance with sort of seeing what you saw and sort of the train of thought of like just how like fears in our present often loop back to old stories that need resolution.
Yeah.
And so I have that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also aware of how I failed that one woman I coached, like the way in which I kind of let her avoid, and I kind of got swept away, so there's kind of that. That's like something that takes time to establish as a coach, to really be in tune with how something's going. So
Sure.
anything requires time to become skilled.
Absolutely.
So I'm in that space of knowing like I have a gift and it needs to be practiced. And a lot of the marketing is, promising, with my coaching, you get X, Y, or Z, and I don't want to promise results. I feel really clear about that. And I really feel that healing, like we're responsible for our own healing, and yet we need to be witnessed. We need to be guided. And that coaching is such a powerful tool for that healing process.
Yeah.
So I'm really clear on that, but then I'm like, okay, but how do I do that? how do I talk about it? How do I talk about problems without creating like a narrative that you need me? I don't want to be needed.
Yeah.
And so I feel like very in tune with sort of the, some of the things that you talk about in your business and how to market in that way. And yet I'm not pivoting an established business, I'm starting one. And so it's all new. And I'm aware too, there's maybe like some perfectionism of not wanting to do it wrong.
Yeah.
Might be holding me back. My own like receptivity to clients is narrowed when I get too focused on how I do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if there's
So there's one thing that I want to just like touch in on before we talk about the marketing piece, because when you say that you failed a previous client of yours, I just want to offer that there's so much about our businesses, there's so much about being a practitioner that is really relational. And that's one of the things that Natalie and I talk about in marketing, is that it is a relational process.
Mm.
And also, if you add in this layer of being trauma informed, it inherently means that you aren't going to get it perfect. So, you know, I think it's complete bullshit if somebody's out there saying that I've never harmed anybody in my entire coaching career. Likely there are some folks that have been harmed along the way. And because it is a relational process, it's not the harm that is the problem. It is the lack of repair.
Mm.
And so it's like any relationship, like my deepest, most like valuable and like yummiest, juiciest relationships are my husband and my best friend. And we are, I mean, just our relational dynamic and the way that I love to have my relationships is like there's a bit of conflict, you know, there's a bit of push and pull just because we don't agree on all of our ideas. And there's like, you know, and we're also, if you're going to love someone, you're also inherently signing up to be hurt or hurt them at some point. And so we've gotten really, really good at learning how to take accountability, apologize, integrate, learn together. And so I think that that is also an important part of the coaching practitioner client relationship, is recognizing that just because you're in the practitioner role, it doesn't mean that you're going to get everything right 100% of the time. And I think that a lot of people get stuck and frozen thinking that I have to get this right and perfect every single time. And so then they only let themselves take a certain amount of risk. And there's a certain amount of risk that you have to be willing to put into a relationship with your client in order to help them feel safe enough to take the risk of growth. You know, it's really risky to like, to invite somebody into a space that's really uncomfortable, you know? And so like, it's lovely that we got to work with Carrie just now, because if, you know, myself or Nat had felt any sort of like wavering in our ability to hold that space, it would have felt like a really unsafe place for Carrie to go to. So just wanting to invite you to reframe the failure, because nobody ever gets it perfect 100% of the time. And if there's a space that you can use that as an opportunity to repair, or use that as an opportunity to learn yourself as a practitioner, if they aren't open to repair, like this is sort of how we have to learn and grow as humans. Is that making sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I think even as I was thinking about what I was referring to when I said fail, I know that I'm being very, very hard on myself. You know, I'm talking about very almost like subtle energy dynamics that they may not have been aware of themselves.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that that is also part of my gift of being able to tune into that and bring it up, because I do think there is opportunity to say, hey, like, let's debrief. I noticed it's been a while, but that last session, this is something that actually has been like in the back of my mind. So I think that idea of repair is really true.
Yeah.
I do think there is a little bit of that nervousness of the risk of inviting someone into that space. Like, I personally go deep quickly, and I've had a history of going deep too quickly just with regular friendships where they've been like, whoa, there's just, I'm like, what's happening? This is just normal, you know, and that there's that withdrawal of I scare, you know, that belief that, oh, I scared you away or something like that. And so, you know, when I think in some of your, I think I've seen you on a podcast or something, but you talk about consent, and that has been such a big part of why I'm wanting to shift this part of my life to a business, because there will be an opportunity to invite to not to like push that onto someone, but to like they're coming to me and there's a consensual exchange
Yeah.
depth.
And all along the way, there's consent, you know,
Yes.
all along the way, there's always this like I think Natalie demonstrated it really beautifully of like, does it feel okay to do this? Does it feel okay to do that? And giving people the sovereignty to choose yes or no, depending on that moment, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, a really important skill to hone as a coach. But I do want to get to your marketing question as well. Which I love that you have a client that you can sort of use as a little bit of a guinea pig here. And for those of you who might be listening and you don't have a client that you can use as a guinea pig, I encourage you to go out and, you know, like throw out a beta program of folks that you can coach one-on-one for a little bit, just to get your teeth into like understanding and identifying like what are people struggling with and where can you take them. And so do you have this kind of relationship with this client that you can ask them to like, can I pick your brain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's where I would start. And is this client like someone that you're like, oh man, if I had multiples of this client, like I'd be stoked on being able to do this for a living? Or does it feel like not quite the right alignment?
Yeah, I think she responded to an offer that I'm not necessarily wanting to pursue specifically. And I think maybe there's just some of how to position a coaching offer topically versus more generally of like who I am and my areas of experience. You know, to be specific, I want to work with those who have religious trauma.
Mm.
And that, you know, I mean, that can be a whole nother probably like hours of coaching we could talk about that, but I think it's how specific and how do I just talk about, you know, for me, I do have an Instagram and I'm talking about fear, for example, right now, but how do I introduce that more generically versus more specific? And like, does it matter that it doesn't need to be religious trauma, right? So, and those are maybe more just general, like self-discovery, very new coaching business questions.
Yeah. And I think it's like what you're bringing up is that business is an experimental process, you know?
Yeah.
And so like Natalie and I, we've actually been in a little bit of conversation around this of like as you yourself are growing and evolving, like your offers are going to change, how you price things are going to change, who you want to work with is going to change. And, you know, it's like, I think that we're sold on this idea in our systems of like, you have to pick a thing and you just have to go and do the thing. And what I've found is actually like, that's really confining for entrepreneurs. And so, you know, as you're sort of experimenting in this space, I would encourage you to go out and start having conversations with your community. And specifically ask questions around what problems they're working through, what challenges are coming up for them, and where they want to be, you know, what would an integrated version of themselves look like and feel like. And then I would say bring those to our conscious marketing course, like shameless plug there, because those are like the little paint palette pieces that we're working with in our conscious marketing course, because this is how we're able to market in a way that you're not just like sticking the knife in and then just like jamming it and twisting it, right? Is like, what we're aiming for as spiritual entrepreneurs is this space where people feel heard, known, and understood. And that doesn't mean we don't talk about pain, right? Because that would actually be a process of bypassing what their experience is. But when you're able to use their experiences and sometimes in specific cases, like use their words. A lot of my Instagram posts are just from having conversations with folks, you know. There's no, I wish there was like a much more exciting way to say like market research data, but like when you guys signed up to do this free call, I had a question on there that was, you know, what's the biggest challenge that you have in your business? And to me, like I look through each and every single one of those because it's like, ooh, is there inspiration that I can like pull from and write an Instagram post, write a newsletter, create some sort of offering around? And so it's always this constant form of like listening and communicating with your community. And, you know, you don't have to have a huge community to do this. Like, I started doing this when I think I had like 200 or 300 followers. And it was really just like, can I have these like conversations with folks and just like put on my listening ear and see if there's a way that we can sort of, I mean, I really don't think about marketing as any different from coaching. Natalie,
Yes.
I've rambled for a bit. You wanna play?
Yeah, Sarah, how's this landing? What's coming up for you? Questions?
Yeah, I think something, Kat, that you just said, where we have to talk about pain. I think that's the part that I always get stuck on, is how to talk about pain without, like you said, making it hurt worse to inspire you to purchase, right?
Mhm.
But also not promising, oh, my coaching session will heal you, because we know that that's also not true, right? Like healing is for life in a sense. Like we're always, it's a daily practice.
Yeah.
And so I think then I'm like, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that. So and can't, again, like I really care deeply about, you know, being in integrity and how I do this, maybe to the point where I'm, again, maybe a little stuck. But also just believing, like I don't know, I just love people and I believe in them and their ability to self-examine when they're in that right place. It's just beautiful. Like, I mean, what we saw earlier with Carrie, like that was just really powerful and beautiful to witness, and to just see that light come up and that glowing, like that's, yeah. So maybe it's just talking about that, maybe being like, hey, I've seen people address this and they glow, and like, I don't know. I don't know. Go ahead and talk to me. What
Well,
do you think?
offer creation is my specialty and jam. And I think something here, and you're lucky for you, if you're interested, conscious marketing, which Kat and I just finished filming, has like hours of us talking about pain and toxic marketing versus conscious marketing. So there's like deep dive, but we'll touch on it here. Everything in business is relational. You're going to hear me and Kat say that like over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, because our dominant worldview that we've grown up in and as Western society, you know, supremacy rooted systems is, let me extract from myself and let me extract from you, and who wins? The machine, right? The system wins. And I think especially when we're first starting and we don't know there's so much stuff that's going to come up to process. There's so much stuff when you're like, okay, I have this gift. What do I do with it? I know I can help people. And so I just want to honor and acknowledge, like, you're beginning. You don't need to be a coach 10 years down the line, or even 3 years down the line, or one. You're right now. Right. And so just even noticing that, like, what comes up when you're just like, okay, this is, you know, I'm just going to pause here before I keep going to see if there's any check-in, anything. It doesn't have to be, but yeah.
Yeah, I think a reminder, like giving myself permission to not be great yet, if that makes sense. And that maybe isn't even true. Like I have a lot to offer now, but I know where I want to go
Mhm.
and the impact I want to have. And even speaking that like right here and say, I want to have big impact and I want people to witness people as they transform their lives. And that's what I want. It's big. And I'm
Mhm.
not there yet.
Mhm.
But like, you have to take one step at a time. And I'm kind of mad that I'm where I'm at because I want to be there, but there is no there. There's only here. And so
You're,
even
yeah. Go, sorry, keep going.
yeah, so even just that, you know, like is my work that I'm doing in my life to show up for others authentically and in integrity.
Mhm.
So I'm very aware of that. But yeah, just being like, hey, this is where you are, and I love that I'm here. like I
Mhm.
love that I'm here. So having
Right.
that
And like,
myself.
yeah, there's all this energy. Like, think of a baby learning how to walk or crawl, and they like want to get up, and they don't learn how to run immediately. They're like, but they're compelled. And so I
Mm,
see this for a lot of helping professionals, healing arts practitioners. There's something so big that wants to come through, and it can be excruciating to feel the slowness of it coming into physical form, because
yeah.
we are these big spiritual amazing beings who were in our energy and in our thoughts, things are instant and big, but then in our bodies they're like, whoa, whoa, and in our relationships they're like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. Now, so this is a process, and what I see happening for people, especially when they have this drive to bigness, there's a confusion too. It can be very confusing in our world, because on the outside, so much, it almost appears as if we have to be really big to get noticed and get clients and get seen. And that in itself can actually be overwhelming, or maybe isn't what brings the big impact or big results, or isn't even how your bigness really wants to be expressed. So there can be this confusion between, how does my bigness really want to be expressed and come through and anchored into this physical form and expanded, amplified? And does it have to come through in this like, oh, and it can, nothing wrong with that. But your bigness could be in the bigness of the subtle, quiet landscape you hold, where people finally can settle and hear themselves. Your bigness can be like, think of a snowy field.
Mm.
It's very big, but it's so quiet. Like, your bigness is going to come in a way, it's coming in already. And so there's a little bit of a journey of like, okay, there's so much bigness and it's intense to come through. You're going through a birth canal. Yeah, I'm just going to pause for there, because I'm like, a lot of directions I can go, but what's coming up for you now?
Yeah, no, I think birth is a perfect analogy. You know, I'm trying to birth my baby at 3 months gestation sometimes, and it's just not ready. It's not ready. If babies are supposed to come out then. So, and I think to honor that, and it's so much of it has also just been slowing down, getting back in touch with my monthly rhythm, with the rhythms of the moon, with it, and just accepting that rhythm. And as I've done that, there have been moments of inspiration that I'm actually like able to kind of like, oh, I think it's kind of taking shape. But yeah, it is that process of birthing, that expansion and sensation that comes with that. And yeah, I really like your discussion of just like bigness doesn't always look confrontational or loud, but it's actually, it can also be an invitation and a drawing out and an initiation. And I've been tuning into just like nature and like the baby buds that are coming and the flower that is unfurling, and there's no rush to spring. and there can't be a rush to the work that brings life, like witness nature and work with nature.
That right there is like, feels to me like a line of your core messaging.
What did I say? Tell me.
You can't rush that which brings life.
Yeah.
I think that's what you said. And like, I don't know if that lands for you, but when you said that, I was like, there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in this, so like in this birthing process, what's kind of interesting and strange and odd, and this might not be the right way for you, but what I see happening for people is a lot of people try to just kind of like figure it all out on their own and pull it out from the channel, pull it out from somewhere, and then just put it out there and see if it works. Like, whoa, let's take a step back. Marketing is relational, business is relational, and your channel through all this bigness, how it's going to come in and how it's going to anchor and how it's going to amplify is going to be honed by actually working with people.
Yeah.
Starting with where you are in that baby step of, okay, I'm here. And even just now you can think of relationally, what are people needing? What are they wanting? What are they struggling with? And Kat spoke to that, Kat spoke to like that kind of market research and talking to people, pick your client's brain. What are you struggling with? Why does that matter? How would your life be different if you weren't struggling with that? Just asking questions about where they are now and where they'd like to be and why it matters. Those are the three, but if you can get questions about those, you're gonna learn so much. And then looking at yourself and being like, okay, just because this is where they are and this is where they want to meet doesn't mean that you have to serve them and help them do that. I think a lot of times as practitioners and healers and guides and coaches, we might feel like we have to just because we can, or just because someone needs it, that we have to do it. But no, actually like pull it back a little bit and be like, well, what are you actually able to deliver on right now? Not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now. What are you confident, willing, and able to promise? And that promise doesn't have to be, I'm going to heal your life. I'm going to fix all your pain. It can be, you're going to have, I'm just going to try to make it tangible. Instead of having 7 migraines a month, you'll have 1. Like anyone who has migraines would fucking love to have 1 migraine instead of 7, right? And you can't guarantee that, but you can, that's a very, very, very tangible. But it doesn't have to be, I solve everything all at once. When that feeling comes up of like, oh, I have to solve all their problems, or I have to like guarantee this result, that in itself is an indicator to me of a trauma response, that where maybe as a child, you might have felt like you were responsible for someone else who you weren't really responsible for. That could be something. I'm not saying that's an indicator. So bringing it back home and just checking in yourself. What are you willing to promise and deliver on? What are you willing to do? Or what do you consent to do or be or help people with? Where's your consent in this relationship? And that's very, very, very important, because that's going to give you the confidence to put yourself out there. It's going to help you attune to and discern whether you can help someone, whether they're the right client for you or not. And it's going to help you speak directly to the clients who are a right fit for you right now. And when you continue having the conversations with your clients all the time, that your audience, with your clients, with people, and it doesn't have to be just Instagram, it can be your friends, your family, people, you start to learn and hone. You don't have to only talk to your ideal people. Talking to anyone is going to help give you enough contrast and tangibility to start noticing your reactions and your responses and see, oh, here's where the boundary is for me, that I feel safe right now. And then that might show you some gaps of where maybe you need to get some training, or maybe you need to get some mentorship or some coaching yourself, or something that can help you move through your own stuff and expand that. But where are you right now? Where's that locus of power right now? And how do you construct that into the agreements, the clarity, the promises you're making, and what you're not willing to make, and who's the right fit and who's not the right fit, and communicate that in your offer? And you might not even have it could just be a conversation thing. It might not even be putting it into an offer in words, but when you're talking to someone, you just get a sense of like, not the right fit. And you'd be like, I think something else would be better for you, and direct them elsewhere, or actually, I feel really confident that I can help you with that. And here, let's talk about, where would you like to be 10 weeks from now? What would you like to be? What would you like to see? And I can't guarantee we're going to get there, but this is the journey we're going to be heading towards. And like talking like that. So I think that is how I approach offers. That's how I approach, bring it all home. But I see so many people just trying to go 10 steps ahead when really they just need to take one step.
Sarah, I want to give you a bit of tangibility for you to work with here.
Awesome.
If you think about conversations that you've had with people around religious traumas, is sort of what you had framed it as. Like, what's a common core like problem or struggle that you see? Like, and if you can even bring up like their words that they use.
Yeah.
Lack
of self-trust.
Okay.
Basically, like I am bad. I'm like unworthy, and I can't trust anything my body tells me. I mean, that's the core of it.
Yeah. And I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that part of the reason why you want to work with this particular group of folks is because you are also somebody who struggled with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the environment I grew up in, and I was always a little bit grittier to be like, fuck off. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that here.
Go for it.
So I kind of avoided a lot of the, but it's still, you have repercussions when you're pendulum swinging out of something that's harmful. But I have deep compassion for women who, especially women who are, who didn't have that natural grit. Not all of us have that. That's not how we all function in high control environments.
Yeah.
I'm deeply compassionate for helping and helping women find that grit and like, hey, your body is so intelligent, and it actually will tell you everything you need if you can learn to listen. Like when you feel unsafe, that's like bad. That's not truth. So that's
you just wrote content right there.
Oh,
that's essentially what it is. Right? So you started out. What's that?
I can do this.
Right? I just want to like outline the path that you took, which is you identified a core wound that somebody who's extracting themselves out of a system, and you were able to say that in their voice. I don't trust myself. I don't trust my body. Right?
Yeah. And
then you spoke to that person like they were an actual person sitting in front of you, which is I can't remember your exact words, but it was something along the lines of like, your body is incredibly wise. There's intuition there. Let's tap back into that intuition. Hi, Instagram post.
Yes.
Right. And you didn't have to like twist the knife.
Yeah.
Right. Like twisting the knife.
It's an invitation. It's an invitation into healing, and it's not promising something. It's just an invitation. It's like opening the door to what's possible.
Yeah.
And then they can walk through or not. Exactly. Right. Like, that's how it feels to me. So that feels like something clicked for me in that. Wow.
And so if your intention is on, I'm going to help people feel seen, known, heard, and understood so that they can make the sovereign choice to say yes to this offering or not, that's a very, very different energy than I am going to convince this person to buy the thing that I'm putting out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
so different. Like it just feels so radically different, even in my body.
Yeah.
As I'm thinking about it, where, I could talk about that a lot, but we don't have to keep going to that, because it's what you're doing.
But now I'm going to ask you, before you signed up for this call, I'm assuming you read some sort of content, you read some sort of communication from either Natalie or I. Do you remember what piece of content it was?
I think it was a recent post where it just said, like, it just talked about pain points and how it just felt out of alignment. And I've even done work with a coach who she outlined how to do offers through pain points, and I posted it, and it's just like it was like complete internal collapse. And like I was just like, it was like full repel. Like I
Mhm.
could tell I posted it, and then I just like had no heart behind it.
Yeah.
So that's what tuned me in, and it was like, wait, is this like a receptivity thing? What is it? um yeah, but it was that, I think it was your most recent post on the empowered, I think it's empowered curiosity, the one about, yeah, just like being out of alignment, and one of the invitations to this community call. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy. I was like, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I mean, I bring that up not to just like pat myself on the back, but like if we're gonna be like a little bit meta and like analyze like what that was, you know, it was essentially like I see the pain that so many spiritual entrepreneurs go through around marketing because it's the same exact pain that I've experienced. I've
Yeah.
also been through those programs where it's like, you know, figure out the pain point and then just like nail them and twist the knife. They don't necessarily say twist the knife, but that's essentially what they're doing. And so like when I step into my marketing shoes, what I'm stepping into is like, what did I need, you know, 8 years ago when I was starting this out, you know? And so can I speak to that person like I would have spoken to myself and really my community happens to be like very educated, and so anytime I go through process with them, like that seems to draw people in. And so like if you can outline a little bit of process with your work, like what does it look like to like have somebody actually start to listen to their body? You know, what are the blocks and challenges that come up as somebody starts to listen to their body? What does it look like as you're able to trust your intuition more? Like now we've taken that one piece of content that you just spoke out loud, and now it's 4 pieces of content. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I think, yeah, just that bite-sized chunk, because I'm far enough along in my journey that I forget the time to understand intellectually, to integrate at the bodily level, and then to make changes in your life. Like even just tapping into your intuition
Yeah.
is a process
Yeah.
and can take time. So yeah, I think to slow down and remember
Mhm.
remember the journey,
Yeah.
and to think about it in those smaller chunks.
Yeah.
You don't have to outline like the start to the finish, because that's
No.
not actually, there is no finish really, but it can just be a moment of reflection on a specific journey,
Yeah.
you know, nice journey that can be an invitation for self-reflection.
Yeah. And that start to finish can be your offer. You know, you
Sure.
can give away all those tools within your paid container, right?
Mhm.
But like in order to have people understand what your values are, understand what you're about, understand your experience, like it's just little bite-sized chunks along the way, and you build
Yeah.
up a body of work from that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, and as I was observing women who are in work, and I admire how they show up, it really is that over time you build your your videos, your posts, your content that
Yeah.
you can then go back to. And I was just reminded, like, oh, this is my life's work. This is different.
Yes.
And
Yes.
again, that back to nature as the guide of, there will be times of pause and rest and redirection, and yeah, to just be present. I don't have to know it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So how's all that landing with you, Sarah?
It's feeling really good. It's feeling like more than I can integrate. And so I know that this is recorded and I'm going to be returning to it and just like coming back to it, I think, and letting those aha moments, just like sitting with one and kind of internalizing it and seeing what that wants to bring out in a sense. There's a lot.
Yeah.
You gave me a lot, which I'm incredibly grateful for.
Yeah. Is there a crystallized like takeaway that is in some sort of tangible form that you'd like to speak out right now?
Yeah, I think the relational element of, you know, if you were to ask someone like what, like your question, Kat, of just what's like a core issue or problem from the religious trauma point, like I knew exactly what to say. I knew exactly what it was.
No.
So trusting that I know actually, and that I can, like, that's not too small, right? Because I might have in the past been like, oh, that's too small, or like that's insignificant, or like I would dismiss it as not enough maybe. But in fact, that little bit of knowing and feeling seen actually is essential, I would say.
Yeah.
And that clicked something where I was like, oh, I'm way overcomplicating this in some way. But to just let it be simple and to let it be easeful.
Yeah.
That's really nice. But it takes some time, I think, to like to not have to strive maybe, and to like put myself into an adrenaline spike to create content maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just talking to your people. It's really
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that feel complete?
Yes, I feel full and grateful, just grateful for the web of all of you in your journeys and your work, and just all of us like bringing that brilliance into the world in different ways. It just feels really, yeah, I have a lot of gratitude.
Thank you for that. So Natalie and I taught this program last year, specifically because we were starting to see like, oh my gosh, there's nobody else who's talking about how to market in a way that feels good to our spirits, our souls, our, you know, our little spiritual entrepreneur hearts.
Animals of our bodies too.
Yeah. And we taught it as a weekend course, a workshop, I guess. But what we found, the biggest piece of feedback that we got last year was that it was so much information. It was so dense. It was really hard to digest. And so what we've done instead is we have recorded the entire lecture of the program in videos. And so you get to consume it in these chunks and consume it on your time, at your regulation, at your pace. And then we've also invited you to some live calls. And so you'll have access to all the material for a year. And then there's going to be 3 live calls within the year. And so what we want to do is we want to meet you at every level of you processing this. And so you, right after you watch the videos, is going to be really different from you 5 months from now versus you 9 months from now. And so we want to be able to catch you at these different points of your journey of consciously marketing. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of really beautiful curriculum that covers the yin, which is like the energetics and the blocks and the challenges that come up around marketing, as well as the yang, because Natalie shares her beautiful POP method, which is really about taking those pieces of problem, outcome, and process, and being able to pull that all together into like a tangible framework that you can use to create social media posts, sales pages, content, curriculum, all the above. So yeah, anything you want to add to that, Nat?
So much.
Eva laughed. If you liked today, you're gonna love conscious marketing. You know, it's Kat and I in our signature irreverent yet deeply respectful manner, and just going deep into the really relational dynamics happening when we're doing business, and then bringing it from the energetic theoretic down into the tangibles, just like we did here today with Sarah, bringing that down into, you know, Sarah just clicked. She was able to like put together a piece of content that would then go out there like a beautiful broadcast to attract the people who are aligned to her. And so this is really, really, really powerful work. And, you know, this is really potent for putting yourself out there in a way that you're not jabbing the knife in and twisting the pain and getting people so worked up that the only way to release all this pressure and tension is to buy. This is what we're moving away from. We're moving away from that and towards people feeling seen, pain as a gateway to helping people feel seen, understood, and supported, and to actually feel a little more ease and settling and relaxation, and feeling like, okay, I trust this person and I have a sovereign aligned yes to work with them. And that's a totally different place, and that creates a totally different relationship between you and your customers or clients. And so if this is what you want, then take conscious marketing and learn about how to actually do that.
Mm-hmm. And the way to learn more about that is at attractyourpeople.com. And we also have a sliding scale for the community. And so if that is something that you need to take advantage of, then all the information that you need is right there.
Yeah, any questions? You can join anytime, Sarah. Yeah. It's all on demand video, so you can watch it at any time, and then you can come to the call. You don't have to have completed all the calls or completed all the videos to come to a call. You can just, if you signed up today and there's a call tomorrow, you can come to the call tomorrow and be supported, witnessed, learn, connect, share, grow.
Well, I always close up my containers with a permission slip from each person. So we'll just go around. I'll just call on people as we go around the screen here, and you can pop open your mic to just share what permission slip you're writing for yourself after gathering with us here today. So Chelsea, you've been in my groups before, so I'm going to start with you.
I honestly was just remembering how much I loved the permission slips. And I just wrote down here that my word for the next solar cycle is going to be permission. So I'm just going to give myself permission to give myself permission.
Love it.
How about that?
Love it. Zhenya, I hope I'm saying your name right. If you feel like popping open your mic. She might not be there. How about Carrie?
I am going to give myself permission to be seen.
Love it. Deborah?
I'm going to give myself permission to be okay with what I want, like to connect to myself and authentically be me. So I think that's going to start moving things along for me to be able to get unstuck in some ways.
Love it. And Sarah?
I think I give myself permission to be a coach and to speak about it.
Yeah. That's perfect. So
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking around all the way to the very, very end of our call. We lost a couple people along the way just because I wasn't planning on sticking around for 2 hours, but that's what happened. So thank you again. And Just for the podcast folks, more information about conscious marketing. The course is going to be at attractyourpeople.com, and we hope we get to see you there.
Yeah. And I want to say, sign up for my newsletter if you like what I have to say, natalie.net. I would love to hear you all, hit reply on my emails, connect.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mhm.